service to Bhagavan Sri Krishna and all his associates. So he's there just roaming on the bank of the Yamuna, in the many forests, playing with the cows and the birds and the peacocks and all the cowboy boys and all the elderly gopis, like that going to their homes and stealing butter, and he's frolics in the night with the young gopis of birds. So this is the Lord Divine Lila. So Maharaj has been traveling, first time he's coming to the Western world on this side, and he has been to Peru and Mexico. And by so much these fortunes, we have lucky to have him here. And from here, he's going onwards to Guyana, to taking the Bhagavad Prachar. So we really like to thank Maharaj for visiting our shows and for coming and sharing with us the message of Vrindavan. That was life in this world. The Vedic scriptures say life in this world is temporary and full of miseries. And one day you have to give up this body, either by force or willingly. So before that time comes, death, Bhagavan says, Anityam Sukham Lokam Imam Prabhu, just so having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in my bhajan. But not only bhajan, but Braj bhajan, if you really want to attain Golo Vrindavan. So Maharaj will share with us tonight more deeper message of this Braj Bhakti. We are very looking forward to hear his messages tonight. So, Dhanabas Maharaj, and pronounce to our guests. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hari Om, Hari Om. Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namah Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Anandalilamaya Vigrahaya Mavadivicha Visundharaya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Nityananda Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalo Kalmashanashaya Janopataye Namaha Ajanalambita Pujokana Kavadato Sankirtana Ipipitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dujavaro Jugadharma Palam Vande Jagat Priya Karo Karunavatar Kanaka Jaladagatro Nila Shonabjanetro Mrigamadavara Bala Malati Kundamala Tarala Tarunavesha Nila Pitambaresha Smarani Britani Kunje Radhika Krishna Chandra Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyarade Tvam Naimam Chiramantike Em Pravrijantam Anapetam Apeta Kritam Dvaipayano Viraha Kataraya Juhava Putretitam Mayataya Taravam Vinedustam Sarvabhuta Hridayam Manimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskrityam Naramscheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadatar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. All together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. First of all, my unlimited dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev, Nitya Prishna Vishnupada, Sutra Satya Shishimad, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, all the Rupa Shishimad, Bhaktivedanta Madhusudan Goswami Maharaj, Srimati Krishna Priyata Purani, all the devotees here in San Juan Trinidad, and all the guests, dandavat pranam, Hare Krishna, thank you very much for coming. So, today is the second day of our hearing of mostly Srimad Bhagavatam we're hearing these days, But today is a very special day. Today is the day of Ekadashi. Most of you know the glories of that day. 11th day of the moon, both waning and waxing part of the month, waxing moon, a day. This is Lord itself, more than just a day. On this day, we remember Krishna. On this day, we glorify His name, His pastimes, His Harikatha, His narrations. So, long ago, in Padma Purana, a very wonderful conversation was recorded. Jaimini, the disciple of Vyasadeva, who had recorded all the Vedas, asked him, "Oh Gurudev, please tell me how the lunar day of Ekadashi manifested in this world. It's so amazing that so many people, but by fasting on Ekadashi day, not only fasting really, but by hearing, chanting, and remembering Bhagavan, can achieve the highest goal, can go directly to spiritual world, to the place of our eternal destination, Vaikuntha. How is it that this very, very special day, the personification of very, very special mercy of the Lord, manifested in this world? So then there's a special sector in Padma Purana speaking about creation, the process of creation. So then Vedavyas started to speak. He said, when the Supreme Lord created this world, He created all moving and non-moving living entities, and He understood, they will be performing many different activities, and some of these activities, those activities will be considered sinful, because anything which violates the Lord's rule is to be known as sinful. So in the laws of Manu, so many delineations of sin. So they have to suffer, unfortunately, but that is a fact. So in Sanskrit, sin will be Papa, this name Papa. And then the Supreme Lord created the personification of sin, the horrible personality whose name was Papa Purush, personification of sin. So He created and He saw how terrible that personality was, Papa Purush. The different limbs of that personality were constructed of different types of sinful activities. For example, his head was made of sin of murdering a Brahman. His two eyes were made of the sin of consuming intoxicants of different kinds. His mouth was made of the sin of stealing gold. His ears were the form of the sin of having illicit connection with the spiritual master's wife, Guru Mata. His nose of the sin of killing one's wife. You can imagine, such a terrible personality. His arms in the form of the sin of killing a cow. That's the highest sin. So people in this world who are devoid of Vedic culture don't know. The cow is one of the 7 mothers. There are 7 mothers. Atma Mata, Guru Maitri, Brahmani Raja Patnika, Dhenu Dhatri Tata Prithvi, Saptaita Matra Smrita. The laws of Manu mention these 7 types of mothers. Atma Mata, your own mother. Guru Maitri, mother of your guru. Brahmani, wife of a Brahmana. Raja Patnika, wife of a king, the queen. Dhenu, cow. Dhatri, the wet nurse, giving breast to babies. And finally, Mother Earth, so Prithvi. These 7 mothers. If you commit violence against one or more, then terrible reaction will follow. Then war will come, famine will come, droughts, tornadoes, floods, etc., earthquakes, volcanoes, all those natural disasters will come. So people who know that, they engage in cow protection. I was so happy yesterday when a man came and he said, I have a farm, cow farm, and I have 7 cows. I think 7, he said. Very wonderful. make milk, make milk products, they make ghee, their own hands. Very, very wonderful when it's violence-free. So also part of Vedic culture. So yeah, the hands of Papa Purush were made of killing the cow. You remember, the head was made of killing a brahmana, and the hands were made of killing a cow. So some other parts of the body. His neck was made of the sin of stealing accumulated wealth, his chest of the sin of abortion, his lower chest of the sin of having sex with another's wife, his stomach of the sin of killing one's relatives, his navel of the sin of killing those who are dependent on him, like servants or even children, his waist of the sin of self-appraisal, his thighs of the sin of offending the guru, his genital of the sin of selling one's daughter, his buttocks of the sin of telling confidential matters, his feet of the sin of killing one's father, and his hair of the forms of less severe sinful activities. So you can imagine them. He was totally black, and his eyes were yellow and red mouth like this. So terrible, monster-like personality. So the Supreme Lord said, okay, this is a personification of sin, but I also have to create a person who would stop the activities of Papa Purush, to neutralize his activities. And then the Lord meditated within himself, and he revealed the personality of Yamaraj, Lord of Death. So those sinners who leave their bodies are chastised severely by Yamaraj during the departure. So he gives them the predestined place in hellish planets. Actually, not all are so bad sinners. Many are pious. So for those who are pious, Yamaraj gives in his, non-fearful section of his Yama Loka, he gives a nice destination in paradise. So this is how the world is rotating. Those who perform pious activities go to heaven, and those who perform sinful activities go to hell. But finally, all of them have to continue their rotation in the samsara, in the circle of birth and death. Again, they will have to be back in this earth planet. So this is, karma. This is called samsara. So when the Supreme Lord Vishnu created Yamaraj, then once he wanted to visit his abode, and he went to Yamaraj's abode, and Yamaraj accepted him and very, very joyfully offered him a seat, washed his feet. Oh, my Lord, how can I serve you? Asked him. Oh, I'm very happy with your service, Lord Vishnu said. And all of a sudden, some shouts, some terrible sounds came to the ears of Lord Vishnu. He could hear some terrible shouts of people, I found one phonogram, in the internet from where sounds of hell are recorded, terrible, terrible sounds of people's shouts. So what is that? What are those sounds? The Lord asked. And Yamaraj said, oh, my Lord, those are the shouts of those sinful people who are experiencing terrible miseries in hell, who are punished, who are cut to pieces, who are burned alive, who are fried, in the boiling oil, etc., etc. So then Supreme Lord started thinking, oh, okay, I created Papa Purush, I created Yamaraj, so these two personalities deal with sinners, but I have to create another personality. I have to create a personality who would neutralize the activities of Yamaraj even. So who would that be? Supreme Lord went deep into meditation. And then from the body of the Supreme Lord himself came a very, very wonderful lunar month of Ekadashi. And she was standing with folded hands. Oh, how can I serve you? Your name will be Ekadashi. Ekadashi Devi Ki Jai. So she manifested. And the Supreme Lord told her, oh, I will give you 2 days a month will be totally belonging to you. The 11th day of the moon, of a waning moon, and the 11th day of the waxing moon will be your days. So those who glorify me on this day will be so much benefited. They will go directly to spiritual world, the Lord said. So many people started observing Ekadashi since then on, and many of them, practically massively, they were going to spiritual world. So then Yamaraj was observing that, and Papa Purusha especially, but both of them noticed what? That the hell became empty. The hell just became empty because people were massively going to spiritual world. Massively going to spiritual world. Not even paradise. They were just nullifying their karma altogether. They were nullifying the results of their activities. They were all burnt out. They were all neutralized. So they were going massively to spiritual world. Then Yamaraj said, "Oh, what's going on? The hell is empty." And then Papa Purusha, he was not finding any shelter. He was trying to find shelter in the deserts, in the seas, oceans, in the mountains, in the cities and villages, and everywhere. Within all species of life, he could not find any shelter. So finally, he approached the Supreme Lord. "Oh my Lord, I'm so unhappy." Yeah. So he bowed down to the Lord, and he gave so many gifts and cried and cried and cried. What to do? Faithful servant. So the Supreme Lord said, "Oh, what's the reason of your unhappiness? You're so unhappy." And Papa Purusha started crying. He said, "Oh my Lord, I'm your created progeny. And I was taking care of all the living entities who were sinful. I was just giving them the sinful results. But now, by the influence of Ekadashi, that lunar day, 11th day of waning moon, 11th day of waxing moon, 2 times a month, I became totally deprived of seva. I have no service whatsoever." So that is much more painful than being unemployed, isn't it? If somebody is unemployed, then okay, there's some chance you can find a job. But in this situation, Kadashi's influence was so strong that Papa Purush became totally despondent. He could not find any shelter. He was trying to escape because the influence of Ekadashi Devi was so profound. So he told the Supreme Lord about his troubles. "I was trying to find shelter everywhere, all over the world, but could not. I was trying to find shelter in the mountains, in the deserts, in the plantains, in fields, and caves, and everywhere. But I could not find. I was trying to find out shelter amongst all the living beings, all sorts of life, but I could not. So then the Supreme Lord looked at Papa Purusha and took mercy on him, and he said, "Oh, Papa Purush, rise up. Don't lament any longer. Just listen. I'll tell you where you can stay on this auspicious day of Ekadashi. On the day of Ekadashi, which is the benefactor of all the living entities, you will take shelter in the foodstuff in the form of grains." Here you go, the grains. All types of rice, wheat, peas, beans, all those grains which are actually, our body sustains on grains. Grains give force. It's a very special substance given specifically by the Lord. But there's one rule. Papa Purusha resides in those grains on these days of Ekadashi, like today. 11th day of waxing moon, 11th day of waning moon, the bright and dark parts of the month. And then Papa Purusha, the personification of all sin, resides there. So Papa Purusha became joyous. Finally, I got a shelter. I got the shelter. So nowadays, many people still follow Ekadashi, but many people also forgot about Ekadashi, unfortunately. Previously in Indian culture, nobody was working on Ekadashi days. That was a day off, 2 times a month. Everybody was stopping off, like at least heavy physical work. They were celebrating, they were praying, they were hearing and chanting about Krishna. But now, different times, different circumstances, so people unfortunately forget about Ekadashis. There were many so-called sampradayas, so-called schools, which don't observe Ekadashi. But that is completely incorrect, because Ekadashi Devi is a very, very special Shakti of Krishna, Vishnu. And if we observe Ekadashi, then Bhakti comes to our heart. So we sang that song, we will sing it now again. As soon as our Kirtaniya finishes his Gayatri, we will sing again. But I will say a few words about that song. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is singing Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Bhakata Seva Prasada Vanasiddhi Bhakti Lati Karamula. And then he sings Madhavatithi Bhakti Janani Napalana Kori. Madhavatithi. Ekadashi is called Madhavatithi, the day of Lord Hari. So, since that is Lord Hari, when Lord Hari comes to this world, that is his appearance day. For example, tomorrow will be the appearance day of Shivarahadev, so we'll be listening about his glories. And certainly Krishna's appearance day, Janmashtami, yes, Ramanavami. So that is his appearance day. That's why we fast like on Ekadashi, same principles, without grains. And we try to remember about the Lord more. And we know that if we do those activities, then the Lord gives very, very special mercy. So concerning Ekadashi, this is a very, very special day. And in that same way, as the Lord is present on his appearance tithi, like Janmashtami, Ramanavami, and tomorrow Varahadvadashi, etc. So in that same way, on Ekadashi day, the Lord is present in that day completely. So that is why when we remember him, then when we chant his name and we hear about him, then we can have a chance to obtain bhakti. Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani, the mother of devotion. Ekadashi day is the mother of devotion. That's why we try to follow Ekadashi very, very nicely. And we're very happy that with our dear guests, we're following it together today. So now let's hear this song by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Sujan Prabhuji will sing. And those of you who have songbooks, you can sing along and you can tell the number of the page. 216 in the songbooks. You can give songbooks to the guests if you have enough. All right. Okay, your mic is working. Okay, you give me the first key. Oh yeah, really. I was supposed to. I forgot. Give me the key. Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Premalati Karamola Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Premalati Karamola Madhavati Bhakti Janani Jatana Palana Kori Madhavati Bhakti Janani Palana Kori Krishna Vasati Vasati Gauri Paramaya Dare Gauri Krishna Vasati Vasati Gauri Paramaya Shuddha Vakata Charanarenu Bhajanaya Shuddha Vakata Gaurayamase sabastane Karala Brahmana Range Gaurayamase sabastane Sabastana Devi Goyani Pranai Bhattasange Sabastana Devi Goyani Pranai Bhattasange Shuddha Bhakkata Charanare Vajanaya Shuddha Bhakkata Vrinandavata Shunike Mana Avasara Sadajate Vrinandavata Shunike Mana Avasara Sadajate Gaura Vidita Kirtan Suni Anande Dayanake Gaura Vidita Kirtan Suni Anande Dayanake Shuddha Bhakkata Charanarenu Bhajanaya Shuddha Bhakkata Charanarenu Bhajanaya Vivanamurti Dekhiya Mora Paramayananda Hoya Vivanamurti Dekhiya Mora Paramayananda Hoya Prasada Seva Korite Noya Sakala Prapanchaya Prasada Seva Korite Noya Sakala Prapanchaya Shuddha Bhakkata Charanarenu Bhajanaya Shuddha Bhakkata Charanarenu Bhajanaya Jayina Deve Bhajana Deve Krihete Dolokavaya Jayina Deve Bhajana Deve Krihete Dolokavaya Charana Sidhu Dekhiya Manga Sukana Sidhaya Sidhu Dekhiya Manga Sukana Sidhaya Shuddha Bhakkata Charanarenu Bhajanaya Shuddha Bhakkata Charanarenu Bhajanaya Tulasi Dekhi Choraya Prana Madhava Toshami Jani, Tulasi Dekhe, Churaya Prana, Madhava Toshami Jani, Gaura Priya Chakra Sevane, Jivana Sarkakamane, Gaura Priya Chakra Sevane, Jivana Sarkakamane, Shuddha Bhakta Charana Renu, Vajanaya Shuddha Bhakti Vinada Krishna Bhajane Anukula Bhaya Java Bhakti Vinada Krishna Bhajane Anukula Bhaya Java Prati Divase Paramasuke Svikara Kaurayata Prati Divase Paramasuke Svikara Kaurayata Ashuta Bhakta Jarana Renu Vajanaya Jaya Madhavati Jaya Ekadasi Madhavati Jaya Ekadasi Jaya Madhavati Madhavati Jaya Hari Vasar Jaya Ekadasi Hari Vasar Jaya Ekadasi Jaya Hari Vasar Ekadasi Hari Vasar Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare together Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hare Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Shri Maharaja-tithi Ekadasi-tithi ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hare Krishna. So many histories in the scriptures about Ekadashi Devi, but since we're listening to Srimad Bhagavatam these days, certainly how can we do without the story of Maharaj Ambarisa? So Maharaj Ambarisa was a great saintly king who lived in Satya Yuga, and also very, very important that he was living in Vraj, in Vrajamandala, in the forest called Madhuvan. So when we visit Madhuvan during Vrajamandala Parikrama, then we remember the story about Ambarisha. Maharaj Ambarisha was the son of a very great king whose name was Nabhaga, I think. Nabhaga, yes, Maharaj Nabhaga. So Maharaj Nabhaga was a very saintly person, and he had many brothers. And they had elderly father, and the elderly father decided to divide the riches amongst the brothers. But since Maharaj Nabhaga was very pious and he was really devoted to bhajan, he was about to leave actually and go to the forest, so he was always engaged in spiritual activities. Then the brothers, they were thinking of him, oh, he's saintly, and he will go to the forest, and does he really need his share? We don't think so. let's better divide everything between ourselves. You know, the situation sometimes in this world these days also. So he was really aloof. He was devoted to Krishna, so he didn't even notice that. And they divided the riches of his father, and the father was very, very elderly. But then all of a sudden he remembered. He remembered that, and he came back to the kingdom and he asked his brother, "So, have you divided the riches?" "Yes." "And where is my share?" "Oh, actually, we decided that you're so much attached to spiritual life, so we didn't leave anything for you. And actually, you have the possession. That possession is your father, our father. He belongs to you. So please take the father." So the father was like very elderly already, like maybe closer to 100 years of age. So Nabaga was thinking, all right, he was not actually protesting. But anyway, he asked his father, "Oh, father, what do you think of this situation? They divided everything and didn't give me any share. And they said that you are my share, that you belong to me." The father said, "That's nonsense. That's completely untrue. They cannot say that. Uh, I don't belong to you in that way." "Oh, what to do, what to do?" Well, Nabaga accepted that type of fate, and he was very peaceful, very humble. But the father said, "Actually, I can help you." The father had some mystic power of provision. He could see the future. And he said, "Soon the Brahmanas will come here, and these Brahmanas will perform a sacrifice. And those Brahmanas, on the sixth day of the sacrifice, since it will be quite long, on the sixth day, they will forget their mantras. They will forget their mantras, but I will tell you these mantras now, so you will know them. And when they forget those mantras on the sixth day and the sacrifice stops, then you approach them and tell them the mantras, so they will be very happy with you, and they will give you some share from the sacrifice. So in that way, you will be benefited." So Nabaga, without any attachment, he said, "All right, father." So he remembered those mantras. And when the Brahmanas came, they started the sacrifice, and fourth day, fifth day, then sixth day started. And during the sixth day, they forgot altogether all the mantras. And they were not able to pronounce anything, so everything stopped. So then Nabaga came up and said, "Oh, I can remind you those mantras. Such and such mantras you repeat." So they repeated the mantras, and they remembered everything brilliantly. And they were so happy with Maharaj Nambaga, they asked, "Oh, uh, you know, we'll give you some riches, actually. The fruits of this sacrifice will belong to you." So when sacrifice was over, they said, "Please take your share." So then Maharaj Nabaga was ready to take the share, but all of a sudden, from the northern direction, a blackish complexioned person came up, and he said, "No, don't touch. This belongs to me. This belongs to me." So then Nabaga was very surprised. "Oh, what is that? Actually, that is my share that was left for me." And the black person said, "Oh, you don't believe me? That belongs to me. Let's go to your father and ask." And they went to the elderly father, who was, you remember, he was a mystic. So he could identify the personality of the black personality, and said, "Oh, my son, this is Lord Shiva." This is Lord Shiva. And the whole sacrifice was dedicated to him. So therefore, he is the right person, to claim the fruits. So they actually belong to him. Then Nabaga again very humbly accepted. For the third time he was sort of cheated, sort of deprived of his rightful claim. But he was not protesting again. So he said, "Oh, let it be." And Lord Shiva said, "Oh, actually, I'm so pleased with you. You're so humble and so worthy. So I'll give you that share. I will give you that share totally. But moreover, I'll give you one special gift. Along with that, I'll give you a special gift, that is divine knowledge, transcendental knowledge." So Lord Shiva, great personality, gave Nabaga divine knowledge. So Nabaga was full of transcendental knowledge. He immediately left all his possessions And he was a self-realized soul, but he had some more children. So one of them was Maharaja Ambarisa. So that's the history of Maharaja Ambarisa. When Maharaja Ambarisa is mentioned here, he's called the son of Nabag. So the son of Nabag means his qualities, Maharaj Nabaga's qualities filled Ambarisa's heart. He was so devoted to Krishna. So you know that there are 64 limbs of bhakti, 64 processes. Out of them, 9 are most important. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam, as Prahlad Maharaj said in this verse. Shravanam, hearing of the Lord. Shravanam, Kirtanam, glorifying the name and pastimes of Krishna. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, remembering Krishna. Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet of Krishna. Archanam, performing deity worship. Archanam, Vandanam, offering prayers. Dasyam, becoming servant, establish the relationship like servant and master. And finally, giving Sakyam, establishing friendly relationship, and finally giving your soul to the Lord, that is Atma Nivedanam. So these 9, out of 9, 3 are most important. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Hearing, chanting, and remembering. Out of 3, 1 is most important. What is that? Who will say? 3, 4. Kirtanam. 3, 4. Once again. Kirtanam. Yes, here chanting the holy name. So that is most important process, and also telling Srimad Bhagavatam. So we can hear now the words of Shukadev Goswami, Sutta Goswami. So that is Kirtanam, and we're hearers, so Shravanam. But when you do Kirtanam, you do 3 processes together. You hear and you also remember. So Kirtanam is the central process. So, but Maharaja Ambarisa was not limiting himself with practicing just 1 or 3 or even 9 processes of bhakti. He was performing everything altogether, all the processes of bhakti. Each part of his body, each working sense, each knowledge acquiring sense, his physical and subtle body, everything was engaged in the service. Savaimana Krishna Padara Vindayor Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanu Varnane Kalo Harir Mandiramarjana Dishu Shrutim Chakara Chuta Satkathodaye Mukundalingalaya Darshane Drisho Tadbritya Gatra Sparshanga Sangamam Grihanam Chatat Pada Saroja Saurade Srimattulasya Rasanam Tadarpite Pado Hare Kshetra Padanapasrane Shiro Hrishikesha Padabhivandane Kamam Chadasya Natu Kama Kamyaya Yathottama Shloka Janashraya Rati. So, Savamanai Krishna Padara Vindayor. His mind, Maharaj Ambarisa was always directing towards the lotus feet of the Lord, always remembering the feet of the Lord in his mind. Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanu Varnane. He was hearing the glories of Lord of Vaikuntha, Krishna, and he was telling others. He was engaging in Harikatha, his subjects. So all of his kingdom was fully devoted to Krishna, all the people, because the king was like this. So that is not a coincidence, because Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Yat yat acharati shreshtas tat tadaveta rojanaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastat anuvartate. Whatever the great person is doing, the ordinary people follow his example, and whatever norms of behavior he establishes, then ordinary people take that up very easily. So all the members of Maharaj Ambarisa's kingdom were like that, were like the king. So Karo Harer Mandira Marjanadishu. With his hands he was personally cleaning the temple of the Lord. it could seem very strange. He's the king. He has thousands and thousands of servants. Why doesn't he engage? Why couldn't he engage servants in cleaning the temple? Oh, this is not an ordinary job. This is not an ordinary karmic work. This is a great devotional service, and we can see practically how our gurus, our beloved guardians, clean the temple of the Lord every morning personally. No? Mandira Marjanadu, no? Here cleaning the temple. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally engaged all of his servants in cleaning the temple of Gundicha. And who was the person who cleaned the most of the temple? Certainly Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. He was showing other devotees how much he collected, and he was looking how many, first stones, then blades of grass and specks of dust his followers had collected. So, Shrutim Chakarachyuta Satkathodaya. With his ears, he was listening to Harikatha, to the pastimes of Krishna. We hear so many things every day, some news, mostly bad news, on the radio and television and all those media, internet, etc., etc. But to hear about Krishna, that is the perfection of life. Not just to hear a recording, no, have to hear alive from self-realized soul. That's the perfection of life. So Ambarisha Maharaj knew that very well, and he was hearing great narrations of Bhagavatam from sadhus, from great personalities. Mukunda Lingasya Darshane Drisho. His eyes, he was engaging in contemplating the Murti of the Lord, the great form of the Lord in the temple. Tadbritya Gatra Sparshenga Sandamam. He was touching the bodies of devotees of the Lord, which are actually completely spiritual. Those bodies of devotees are pure. Granam Chaptat Pada Saroja Saurabhe. He was smelling the aroma of the tulasi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, and Srimad Tulasya Rasanam Tadarpini. And he was relishing Krishna Prasad by taking those same tulsis into his mouth, and also sweet Mahaprasad from the Lord. Pado Hare Kshetra Padanu Sarpani. So his feet, he was engaging in walking around the temples of the Lord, visiting the holy places, doing parikrama. Shiro Rishikesha Padabin Vandane. And his head, Shiro, he was using in bowing down to the Lord. So, Kamam Chadasya Kama Kamyaya. So all of his desires, all of his intentions, he was directing to the Lord. That was his position. Always, always, always he was engaging like this. And as we mentioned, Maharaja Ambarisa, his wife, and all of his subjects were living at that time in Madhuvan. Actually, he was resident of Madhya Pradesh, but he came to Vraj and he lived in Madhuvan. So he was very devoted in observing Ekadashi. But he came actually for Vrajamandala Parikrama. And during one Vrajamandala Parikrama, or the circumambulation of the holy places of Vraj, he started Ekadashi fast. And that Ekadashi fast he was keeping for 1 year non-stop. For 1 year. So previously, as you must have heard, the Ekadashi was being followed very strictly, not like we do now. Always Ekadashi was nirjal, means everyone was fasting totally without water. And that fast was starting on Dashami day, on the 10th day of the moon. So the last meal you could take was at midday of Dvadashi day. And then you will be fully fasting, during Ekadashi day, and then breaking Ekadashi fast with some water or some charanamrita on the Dvadashi day, and again some fast till midday, then on midday some ordinary prasad with grains. That was like that. But Maharaja Ambarisa and his wife were strictly following Ekadashi for 1 year straight. So then finally, on the Dvadashi day, a year after, Maharaja Ambarisa distributed so many. First of all, he performed great sacrifice. He performed great sacrifice, and many sages were engaging in that. And he remunerated the priests, and he gave so many donations to all the guests and great personalities. So even demigods came to receive their shares. It was a completely amazing, huge sacrifice. So Maharaj Ambarish was so dear to Krishna that Krishna engaged his Sudarshana chakra in guarding Ambarisha Maharaj. So he said, Sudarshana, you have to guard my pure devotee Maharaj Ambarish like this. So Maharaj Ambarish was serving like this. He was totally devoid of material desires. And then, all of a sudden, a great personality, Durvasa Rishi, came. You know Durvasa Muni. Who doesn't know Durvasa? Everybody knows. So Durvasa is a great Brahma Rishi, actually, fully realized Brahman. And then he came and appeared as an uninvited guest all of a sudden to the court of Maharaja Ambarish. Well, according to etiquette, immediately you have to accept your guest. Whatever you do, you have to offer him a seat, offer him at least a glass of water, and ask about his needs, and please him on some pleasing words. So thus Maharaj Ambarish offered Maharaj Durvasa Rishi a seat, and invited him for prasad. Gladly, Durvasa Rishi accepted the invitation, but he said, "Oh, first I have to go to the river and perform my ablutions." So when Maharaj Ambarish went to Yamuna to take bath, then, I'm sorry, Durvasa, yes? So Maharaj Ambarish noticed that, only 24 minutes, one muhurta, 24 minutes left before the end of the time which is auspicious for breaking Ekadashi fast. As you well know, on the following day of Ekadashi, Dvadashi day, like tomorrow we'll also observe, there's a special astrological period meant for breaking Ekadashi fast. So if you don't break Ekadashi on that particular moment, then all the results of Ekadashi will be nullified. So you have to really be very accurate and break the Ekadashi on the following morning at certain period. So only 24 minutes had been left, and that's why Maharaja Ambarisha was in a dilemma. Oh, what do I do first? If I take some water now, if I take something, then it will be considered like eating, and I will disrespect my guest, great sage Durvasa. So that will be great aparadha, a great offense. On the other hand, if I wait for him and miss the time of breaking fast, then there will be disrespect towards Ekadashi. So he was in dilemma. So what to do first? And then he consulted his counselor Brahmana, and Brahman said, "Oh Maharaj, if you take some water or charanamrita, this is not considered food, but simultaneously considered food. So you will simultaneously break Ekadashi and not take food if you do that." So upon the advice of Brahmana, Ambarish Maharaj took that idea, and he said, "Okay, I will break Ekadashi in that way, simultaneously not taking any food and not disrespecting my honorable guest, Maharishi Durvasa." And then, after executing all necessary rites, Maharaj Durvasa came out of water and came back to the king, but he immediately couldn't understand that the king had drunk the water. So immediately, Durvasa Rishi was very hungry, but also he became very angry. So he became furious, actually. His face frowned. He spoke to King Ambarisha, who was standing before him very humbly with folded hands. Aha! He say, "Aho yasya nrishamsasya shriyan mattasya pashyata dharma vyatikaram vishnu abhakta yesha maninaha." Aha, just see, this a non-devotee, abhakta, and he is cruel, and he is Shriyanmattasya. He doesn't pay attention to the holy people, like myself, he was thinking. No? Pashyata, just look. Dharma Vyatikramam. He has violated the rules of religion. And he is so proud. Abhaktasya Shamanina. He's thinking that he's Isha, means he's thinking he's the supreme controller. What is that? He has neglected his guest. But actually, our acharyas are writing, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that Shuddha Saraswati, the pure Saraswati, means Srimati Radhika actually, Shuddha Saraswati, has delivered the message in an opposite way. What?
Breakfast time. 6:28 to 6:59.
Breakfast? Which breakfast?
Breakfast
In the morning. Okay, we'll announce later. Just in the flow. All right. Just when I finish this part, okay? This announcement for tomorrow. Thank you so much. Yeah. So. Shuddha Saraswati said it differently. Nrisham Sasya means, actually, Ambarisha Maharaj is praised by all people. No. So, not that he's making himself great. No, he is praised by all people, naturally. So, Shriyanmattasya means he is not intoxicated by pride. So, the opposite meaning. Then, Ishamanina, he is actually giving regard to the Lord. He is concerned with the glory of the Lord. That's why he wants to follow Ekadashi nicely and break Ekadashi nicely. And Vyatikrama means having not transgressed any dharma. Yeah, so the meaning is quite the opposite. So Shuddha Saraswati could not tolerate these words, and she gave the correct connotation of these words. So now, then Durvasa Rishi became very, very furious, and inflamed with anger, he uprooted a bunch of hair from his head and cast it on the floor, and the demon, fiery demon, arrived on the spot from that bunch of hair. The demon was resembling the blazing fire of devastation, and he was ferocious, and he was ready to punish Maharaja Ambarisa, burn him. So he took his trident and make the surface tremble like this. So, but the king, upon seeing the fiery demon, was not at all disturbed. He was standing as before with folded hands. Devotees like this. Devotees worshipping Krishna at all times. Abhaya Charana Ravindare is worshipping the Lord. That's why the Lord, his lotus feet give fearlessness. Abhaya Charana Ravindare. So, in that way, Maharaja Ambarisa was naturally fearless. So then, immediately, as you must remember, Sudarshana Chakra, who had been guarding Maharaja Ambarisa, immediately started acting. And Sudarshana Chakra immediately appeared on the spot. And Sudarshana Chakra burned that demon to ashes and turned towards Durvasa Rishi. So Durvasa Rishi is compared here to a snake, So he started running away, fleeing away, like imagine a forest fire and all snakes, they crawl away. So in that same way, Maharishi Durvasa was flying high in the sky, trying to escape the burning of Sudarshana Chakra. And Sudarshana Chakra, the burning wheel of the Supreme Lord, was chasing him, right behind. So then Maharaja Ambarisa was trying to find shelter in the universe. So first, frightened, he went to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, the highest authority of all the universe. No? Oh Brahma, please protect me from Sudarshana Chakra. And Brahma said, I'm myself finite, I'm myself mortal. So when the end of my life approaches, when Supreme Lord, in the form of time, he vanquishes the entire universe, and myself including. So all the rulers, we all surrendered to Krishna, both Shiva and Bhrigu and all others. So he mentioned Lord Shiva. So Durvasa Muni, being himself, by the way, incarnation of Lord Shiva, anyway, he went to his original manifestation, the Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva also could not do anything. Lord Shiva said, my dear son, we cannot compete with the Supreme Lord. So you can go directly to the Supreme Lord and you can tell him about your problem. So immediately Durvasa Rishi went to Vaikuntha. He was free to travel everywhere, including Vaikuntha. No problem for him to go to Vaikuntha, the spiritual sky. So he went to Lord Narayana. Then Lord Narayana, Lord Narayana eternally resides with his spouse Lakshmi Devi. So then, oh infallible Lord, Durvasa Rishi said, I'm so unfortunate. I'm a great offender. O protector of the universe, please give me shelter, give me shelter. So then, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Lord said, Aham Bhakta Paradhino Yasvatantra Ivadvija Sadhubir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktar Bhakta Janaprita Priya, O Brahman. I am completely under the control of my devotees. That's what Lord Narayana told Durvasa. That's the highest truth. Asvatantra, Ivadvija. I'm not independent. Oh, this may be considered something new, isn't it? So we hear that the Lord is completely independent, etc. Okay, this is tattva. This is established truth. But there is one strong but. What is the main feature of the Lord, That is Bhakta Vatsalyata. That is great, great care about his devotees, great affection. So his Bhakta Vatsalyata is so big that the Lord is saying here very directly, I'm not independent. I'm totally dependent on my devotees. So if one offends the Lord may consider, okay, foolish creature, what to do if that creature will, offer obeisances to the Lord, then he may forgive. But if somebody offended the Lord's devotee, then the Lord will become merciless to such a person. I cannot do anything. I cannot give you any mercy because you nullified even the possibility of my giving you any mercy, because my mercy is within the hearts of the devotees. Devotees distribute my mercy all over the world in the form of gurus. They come and they distribute mercy to all the jivas. So he is saying Asvatantra, Saudabir Grasta Hridayo, Bhakta Janapriya, also so dear to me, not even my devotees, but the devotees of my devotees. Dasa, no dasa, so that's what we say. We're not independent from Guru Parampara, we're not independent from our previous acharyas, from gurus, we're totally dependent on them. In the same way as all the coaches of a great, great train depend on the locomotive. So Guru Parampara is made up like this. So my devotees totally depend on me, they take shelter of me only. So if you disrespect any of them, then what can I do for you? It's not possible. My devotees give up their homes, they give up children, relatives, riches, and everything else for my sake. So to serve me, so how can I neglect their opinion? How can I be neutral when I'm being offended? That's quite impossible. So those are the words of Lord Narayan. As the chaste women bring their gentle husbands under control by service, the pure devotees who see others suffering as their own, completely attached to me in the core of their heart, bring me under their full control. So the Lord cannot really repay them. So much he is grateful. So he's glorifying, Lord Narayan is glorifying his devotees. And he's saying at the end, great, great verse, which is like a formula. So we remember it very often. Lord Narayana said, Sadhavo hridayam mayam sadhunam hridayam tvaham madanyate na jananti naham tebyo managapi. The pure devotee is my very heart. My heart is my devotee. And my devotee is my heart. What pains him pains me. It's very, very deep. Also he is saying, Sadhanam hridayam tvaham. No, I am the heart of the pure devotee. So the pure devotee knows nothing but Krishna. In the same way as the materialist knows nothing but, the object of his lust. So in that same way, a devotee knows nothing but Krishna, the object of his prema. So Narayana is saying here, my devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anything but my devotees. That is what is going on in the heart of Krishna. So very, very deep verse, very famous. Here Lord Narayana just disclosed what's inside his heart. O Brahman, I will tell you the method for your protection. Please listen. You go back to Maharaja Ambarisa, to that very person, the great king you had offended. Not only the great king, the great devotee of mine. So you go to him, beg for forgiveness, then you'll be fully, fully forgiven. So, whatever bad contact we may have, no problem. But if we offend the great devotee, then that's the greatest, greatest sin, greatest nefarious activity. So you should immediately go to King Ambarish, return to earth and approach him. Again, he's mentioning here the son of Maharaja Nabhaga, so much great Maharaja Nabhaga was. So Durvasa, harassed by Sudarshana Chakra, who had not left him behind alone, that was running back immediately to Maharaja Ambarisha and approached his lotus feet and fell at his lotus feet. But Maharaja Ambarisha, imagine the level of his humility, the level of his saintly nature. He hadn't been taking any even water he was taking, I think, for the second year, but any grain, any piece of food he hadn't been taking for another year. So another year was taken while Durvasa Muni was trying to find shelter all over the universe, and he went to Vaikuntha even, but on earth 1 year passed. But for the first year, remember, Maharaja Ambarisha and his wife, the queen, had not been taking anything at all, nirjal, without even water. But for the second year, he was drinking some water, but he was waiting for his guest, and he was repenting within his heart. He was thinking that, oh, that is my great fault. I had created such a trouble for my guest, and that's why now I have to nullify that somehow. So he was waiting, he was ardently waiting for his respectable guest to return. So when Durvasa Rishi returned, then Maharaja Ambarisha was seeing that Sudarshana Chakra was about to burn him to ashes. And then immediately Maharaja Ambarisha with folded hands started to approach Sudarshana Chakra, with trying to appease Sudarshana Chakra with his wonderful prayers. Yeah. O Sudarshana Chakra, your most powerful sun, you're the moon, you're master of all luminaries, your most powerful manifestation of the Transcendent Lord. So please have mercy. Have mercy on this poor Brahmana. Maybe he had committed some mistake, but don't be so merciless to him. Please give him some mercy. You are the truth, you are the personification of religion, and you are the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. So now please reveal your mercy. Please take notice of the unfortunate position of this Brahmana. Please have mercy upon him. So you're the center of the universe. You're like all auspicious universal hub. So everything rests upon you. So you're the maintainer of all the three worlds. You're the repository of all the effulgence, possessor of pure intelligence. So he was glorifying Sudarshana Chakra and choice prayers. Also, you're the master of speech. You're the source of all energy. You are totally composed of dharma, of the religious principles. So please find possibility to forgive this poor Brahmana. Please give him your mercy. So Sudarshana Chakra is punishing the criminals, but also Sudarshana Chakra is protecting the devotees of the Lord. We'll be hearing soon, I think on Saturday, narration about Nrisimhadev and Prahlad. So Nrisimhadev is the personification of Sudarshana Chakra, the Lord's disc. So when the devotees cry for help, then Nrisimhadev comes to protect them. And Ambarisha Maharaj performed a miracle. Because of him, Durvasa became really a devotee. So Durvasa had been Brahma Rishi, he was a great personality. But this episode with Maharaja Ambarisa and Sudarshana made his heart totally change. So then Sudarshana Chakra immediately stopped its burning, his burning, and became fully peaceful. So Durvasa became joyful, and he was flat before the lotus feet of Maharaja Ambarisa. But Maharaja Ambarisa was very, very repentant. Oh dear Brahmana, I'm so sorry, because of me you underwent so much trouble. Please forgive me, please forgive me. I hadn't respected you properly. I took some water before you took prasada. I had promised you. So then Maharaja Ambarisa was petitioned by Durvasa Rishi, oh, please take prasad, no, please take prasad. Now, after he took, certainly according to etiquette, he had to take first, the guest had to take first. So Durvasa Rishi had many, many varieties, all possible preparations the king had prepared for him. And finally, very, very pleased, he asked the king, oh, now, please, oh king, now you take your prasad. So then Durvasa Muni left the place and he went to Brahmaloka, means he went to the impersonal Brahman, to see all those sages who had gathered there, realized Brahman, and he was seeing them and he told them about the greatness of devotional service to Krishna. So not only himself was changed, but he also told the great rishis, Brahma rishis, about the power of devotional service. So this story, glorifying Ekadashi, is so important for us. First of all, we can see the power of Ekadashi Devi. We see that even such a great Brahmavadi as Durvasa, because of the power of Ambarisha Maharaj, who had given the preference to Ekadashi Devi, rather than even respecting the great personality of Brahma Rishi Durvasa, who had come to visit his house. The strength of the attachment of Maharaja Ambarisha to following Ekadashi, even Durvasa Rishi had totally changed in his heart. We can also see another teaching, we already stressed that, how the Supreme Lord is totally dependent on his devotees. Durvasa Rishi could not find any shelter all over the universe, but only when Ambarisha Maharaj forgave him, then everything was all right. Certainly there was not even a second, a half a second, fraction of a second, when Ambarisha Maharaj had not forgiven his honorable guest, Maharaj Durvasa, Maharishi Durvasa. But when it all, went on the verbal level, when all the words, necessary words, were pronounced, then immediately Sudarshana Chakra was appeased, and Maharaj Ambarisha appeased Sudarshana Chakra by his prayers. So the Lord, even in the manifestation of Sudarshana Chakra, certainly is fully dependent on Ambarisha Maharaj. So remember the saintly character of Ambarisha Maharaj, and we are aspiring to serve Ekadashi Devi in that same way. Maharaja Ambarisha was serving. Certainly it's not possible with all technicalities, but well, we follow Ekadashi, most of us, we follow by taking Anukalpa, some Ekadashi Prasad like potatoes, fruit, etc. Fruits and roots we can take, no problem. If we're weak, what to do. So also in our life we travel so much, so we have to do. But good if somebody can follow Nirjal, the result will be very, very great. So we're not following Ekadashi really for getting rid of all those karmic reactions which contained in the grains we were mentioning. Papa Purusha's body are made of them. Well, this is secondary, but the first result is that we want to achieve bhakti. We want to achieve bhakti. There's certainly Ekadashi Mahatmya in Puranas, but we obviously devotees in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this line, we don't take so much heed in that. We don't pay so much attention to that because so many results of following Ekadashi which are really material. I mentioned that, oh, if you follow that Ekadashi, then you will have many, many sons, you will be very pious, you will be healthy, you will be happy, you have riches and this, that. We don't pay attention to that. We want only bhakti, only Krishna bhakti and nothing else. Specifically that mood we want to achieve. Also, a few last words about Maharishi Durvasa. His personality is very, very unique. Why? Because he was actually a Vraja Bhakta. Although popularly he is known as Vaikuntha Bhakta, but his remembrance of Krishna was remembrance of that Krishna who is in Vrindavan. Our Gurudev confirmed that. He was remembering Krishna and he was remembering Ashtakalya Lila, means the pastimes of Shishirada and Krishna during 24 hours. So he had already reached the level, not only Bhava, he was Premi. You know, there are 3 stages of bhajan: sadhana bhakti, Bhava bhakti, Prema bhakti. So Maharaja Ambarisa was not an ordinary Bhava bhakti even. So above Bhava bhakti, there's a level called Bhava, what's that? Krit, Bhava bhakti Krit. Krit means you have achieved perfection. So he was on the level of Prema actually. So after the sadhaka crosses all the impediments, crosses all the levels of bhajan which impede his achievement of firm faith, then from first firm faith, nishta, through asakti, and through ruchi and asakti, bhava comes. So bhava is a very, very ecstatic level. So our Gurudev is asking a rhetoric question, like Maharaj Parikshit was hearing this story from Shukadev Goswami, and he was thinking, oh, that son of Maharaj Nabhaga, Maharaj Ambarisa, was so saintly that even the curse of a Brahmana was not acting upon him. Oh, very, very interesting, because Maharaj Parikshit was affected by a curse of Brahmana. You remember? A Brahmana had cursed Maharaj Parikshit. Oh, soon you will be bitten by a flying snake, Takshaka. So he was waiting for Takshaka for 7 days, 7 nights, and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam constantly. But Maharaj Ambarish was not affected by even the curse of Brahmana. So, because he was a great devotee of Vraj, you know, and Krishna was giving him a very, very special protection. Although Maharaj Parikshit, according to our Gurudev, is higher than Maharaj Ambarish. Although, yeah, still Maharaj Ambarish's position here is more advantageous. Why is Maharaj Parikshit higher? Because Krishna was his relative. But not only because of that. He saw Krishna personally. When Ashwatthama had let Brahmastra out, desiring to kill Maharaj Parikshit, who had been in the womb of his mother Uttara, it didn't happen because Krishna protected Maharaj Parikshit personally by his chakra. Yeah, but nevertheless, Maharaj Ambarish was also protected by its chakra, and his position was more advantageous, even though formally he is not as close to Krishna as Maharaj Parikshit. So Maharaj Ambarish takes very, very special position amongst all the devotees of Krishna, and Srila Sanatana Goswami in his Brihad Bhagavatamrita named him within the category of Shuddha Bhakta, Maharaj Ambarisha, so pure devotee. He was serving completely, although he was a sadhaka, he was a practitioner. But he achieved that level of prema, by following sadhana, and finally the Lord himself gave him a very wonderful darshan in that very crucial situation. So that was beneficial for all, for Maharaj Ambarisha for sure, and also certainly for Durvasa Rishi as well. So we remember Maharaj Ambarisha today. We're very, very happy. I'm very happy that you participated in this hearing, and let us soon finish this Ekadashi evening with Arati and very, very delicious prasad prepared by Sumitra Didi and family. So, Shri Maharaja Ambarisha ki jai, Shri Ekadasi-tithi ki jai, Shri Maharaj Durvasa ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Ekadashi Devi ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Okay, so what last Harinam, no? Or directly? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Together, please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bola Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Ekadasi-tithi ki jai, Madhava-tithi ki jai, Shri Ambarish Maharaj ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. 1 second, there was an announcement about the Ekadashi breakfast time tomorrow, 2nd February, for Trinidad. That is 6:28 to 6:59, only 31 minutes. 6:28 to 6:59, so please be careful. and break your Ekadashi fast on time tomorrow. Yes, so there's a table just in the entrance with very wonderful books from our Guru Parampara, mostly from our Shiksha Guru Pujapat Bhaktivedanta Madhusudan Maharaj, English books, some books in Spanish, and also our Gurudev Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. So now please be prepared for Arati, and after Arati please take Ekadashi Prasad. Gaur Premanande.